Hi, everyone. This is Lauren Baker, founder of Search Engine Journal, and welcome to today's SEJ Marketing Think Tank with myself and with Blair and Katie from Dialogue Tech. I'll give you a chance to say hi real quick, Blair and Katie, and then I'll go ahead and do some housekeeping before we start today's webinar on local strategies to drive more customers from AdWords and Facebook.
Sure. Hi, Lauren. This is Blair. Happy to be here. Happy to be here in front of your audience.
Hi, everyone. This is Katie.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to have both of you here today, and I'm looking forward, and I'm sure most of our attendees are also looking forward on how to drive more customers and leads with their AdWords and Facebook campaigns. But just to let everyone know, you are in the SEJ Marketing Think Tank right now. So basically what's going to happen is Blair and Katie from Dialogue Tech are going to be presenting their webinar for a good 50 minutes or so. Then afterwards, we're going to have 10 minutes for Q&A. During the course of the webinar, please feel free to type any questions that come to mind within the question box that's on your GoTo control panel. I'll be going through those questions and asking them at the end of the presentation. And then also, if we don't have a chance to answer all of your questions, we'll be sending some follow-ups afterwards. We are recording today's webinar, so we'll be also following up with all attendees that could make it and all of those that registered and did not have a chance with video. So that's going to be handy as well. Today's official hashtag is hashtag SEJ Think Tank. If you'd like to tell your friends on Twitter or even Instagram or whatnot what you're currently doing and what you're learning, that's a great chance to do so. And at the end of the webinar today, we'll have a quick survey. If you could take the time to fill that out, that will help us do things better in the future. So I'll hand off things to you now, Blair and Katie.
Thanks, Lauren. And again, welcome everybody to today's webinar on 10 local strategies to drive more customers from AdWords and Facebook. As Lauren said, we've got a pretty full presentation packed with what I hope are some tips and examples that you can take away from this webinar and put to use in your own digital advertising to acquire more customers. Some of the tips are basic and some are very advanced. So we do run the gamut here. So hopefully, whether you are a single location or a multi-location brand, or whether you're a B2B enterprise with a call center, or even whether you're an agency that is partnered with any of the above, hopefully that there'll be some tips or strategies here that you can apply to your own everyday campaigns in order to drive more value. So as Lauren said, my name is Blair Symes. I'm the Director of Content Marketing here at Dialogue Tech. If you're not familiar with Dialogue Tech, we are the leading provider of actionable marketing analytics for inbound calls. Marketers and agencies use Dialogue Tech to connect calls to the customer journey so that they can more accurately measure their ROI from every channel, as well as make optimizations to generate more calls at a lower cost, personalize customer experiences, and drive revenue. Joining me today is Katie, as Lauren said. She's the marketing associate here at Dialogue Tech, and Katie runs our paid search and Facebook advertising. So I'm very happy to have her here in order to help provide some of the tips that we're talking about today. So I'd like to get started and begin by setting the stage with some stats to really show you the importance of the topic we're talking about today, the importance of specifically AdWords and Facebook to the modern marketing mix. So as you can see here on the left, you can see last year, Facebook search ads in the US, people invested almost $40 billion on search ads. On Facebook, it was a little over 15 billion. You can see how that's a very large chunk of the overall digital marketing spend. So 65% of all digital ad dollars in the US go towards either search or to Facebook. And those numbers continue to grow as we invest more and more in those channels. Local, specifically, is also a good and growing portion of search and Facebook spend. You can see some of the latest stats here. Nearly 40% of search ads now are local, meaning that they are targeting a specific geographic territory or audience. Local search spend is 4 times larger than local Facebook spend last year, but Facebook is actually growing at a pretty rapid rate. Localized Facebook campaigns, local spend is going to more than double from 2017 to 2020. And overall, local Facebook and Google ads are 48% of all local digital advertising. So again, it's not just that you're spending more and more money on Facebook and AdWords, but that a lot of that spend is going towards targeting a local campaign. So why is that? Why are marketers investing more on local campaigns? Well, one of the main reasons is that consumers, as consumers, we like to shop locally. So 93% of consumers will travel less than 20 minutes when shopping for everyday purchases. But you can also see across the bottom, I picked a random selection of industries. People do shop for pretty much every industry with a local lens. So they're looking to make purchases with a business that is in close proximity to where they currently are. And that's mostly and especially true for people who are doing this type of research on their smartphones. So smartphone users are 3 times more likely to make a purchase based on proximity even than tablet users. So when we talk about mobile devices, when people are engaging with your localized advertising and web content on their smartphones, they're 3 times more likely to make a purchase with a business or service that is close to them. And here's some stats I think are especially interesting when it comes to mobile search. I talked about smartphones and their importance in local ad campaigns. Well, one of the reasons why is because when people search for a local business or a local service near them, oftentimes that search is taking place on a smartphone. You can see some of the stats here from in the U.S. over the past years. You can see how local searches on desktops, the volume is relatively flat. But on mobile devices, on smartphones, that number is exploding. So you can see a huge trend upward in terms of the local search volumes. When people are doing local searches, they're often doing those on their smartphones. And plus, the overall volume is increasing significantly for local. It's a huge market for you if you've got the right ad strategies in place. And what's really even more impactful about this is the stats on the right, is that when someone does a search for you on their mobile devices, oftentimes that conversion is happening offline. So you can see how people are 57% more likely to visit a store after running a mobile search. They're 40 times more likely to call a business, and overall these audiences are 51% more likely to make a purchase. So these your localized ad campaigns, local searches are driving offline conversions that are converting to customers. It's a high purchasing intent audience, people who are running local searches. And you can see on the bottom, 18% of local searches on smartphones lead to a purchase that day versus only 7% of non-local searches. So it's a great audience. There's a lot of conversions and opportunities for you to generate business from this audience. Before I hand it off to Katie, I did want to do one quick slide on calls because we touched on offline conversions previously. And it is really important to understand that as people run more local searches on their smartphones, as people engage with your mobile ad campaigns on their smartphones, they're much more likely to call. The call volume, this is just statistics in the US alone, has really exploded from local mobile digital advertising. So you can see here how, in 2017, 108 billion calls were made specifically from mobile search social and display ads to businesses. And that's from 2016 to 2020, we're looking at a 74% increase in calls to US businesses, specifically from mobile digital advertising. So people are very likely to convert from your digital ad campaigns by calling, and you can see the billions of stats from search and from social specifically last year on the right. So with that, the stage is set. You can see how with the more you're spending on your local advertising, the more important it is for you to take the right steps to optimize your ROI. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Katie to start us off with some of the tips you can use to do that. Katie?
Awesome, thanks Blair. All right, so let's get started with tip number 1, target audiences based on their location. So you always want to target locations that are driving the most leads to your business. So you should always start by analyzing the data that you already have on your customers within your CRM tool. You can look at things like city, state, or zip code to determine where your customers or best conversions are located. Then you can set targets for those specific locations at all different levels for more or less granularity. This way you'll focus on locations that generate business, and you'll avoid targeting areas that fall outside of your service area. You can also exclude or reduce bids on locations that don't have a high conversion rate, so you don't waste spend in those areas. This allows you to spend your budget much more wisely in the locations that actually do convert. To set this up within your Google AdWords account, you need to set locations at the campaign level. You can increase bids on specific locations within each campaign to increase reach in high population areas or those areas that do tend to convert well. So when would you use location settings? You can use location settings if you only sell within a certain city. For example, a real estate agent in Chicago would not want his ads showing in Detroit. What are some of the repercussions of not using location targeting? You could waste spend on consumers who are not in your target market or outside of the area your company serves. So just going back to our real estate example, people could be clicking on your ads in Detroit, but you only service Chicago, so you would be wasting precious ad dollars. In the example we have here, we have different location targets set up for one of our campaigns, but we focus differently at the city, state, and country level. So we bid up in the state of California because we tend to see a higher number of conversions throughout that state. You can also target audiences based on their location within your Facebook ads. With Facebook location targeting, you can set the location at each ad group, but I recommend having the same location in each campaign and making multiple campaigns for different cities. For me, it's just a cleaner, more streamlined way to view your data. You can also have a unique budget set for each city based on the number of conversions in a location. I tend to set a higher budget in cities that have a higher conversion rate, like Chicago, for example, which is where we are headquartered. When determining location targets, you can also upload a custom audience list of your existing customers or prospects from your CRM to retarget audience members who also fall into this location-specific targeting to bring them back to your store or site. Another way to target audiences is based on the location is to use their zip code information. So we recently implemented a mapping project based on location of previous conversions. At Dialog Tech, we focus on marketing status of MQL, SQL, or SAL within our sales pipeline, which means marketing qualified leads that then becomes a sales qualified lead, and then finally a sales accepted lead. So what we did is we exported data from our CRM since January 1st, 2016, and analyzed each marketing status based on the lead location using their zip code. Zip code is one of the data points that we collect when getting customers' information for billing purposes, which helped us to create this report. The easiest way to do this is going to be in Excel, but other tools like a bid management tool can help you do this as well. As you can see, we mapped out where our MQLs and then SQLs are most prevalent. So if you see here, the teal circles are MQLs and the orange diamonds are SQLs. Based on the results that we saw from mapping these people, we now have visibility into where exactly all of our leads and conversions are coming from across the United States. So the next step is to implement a bidding strategy to focus particularly on the areas where we have a higher SQL conversion rate. In order for us to truly understand how these new targets and bidding strategies are affecting our MQLs and SQLs, we slowly rolled this project out so that we don't exceed our budget. It's always important to keep an eye on the impact of your overall budget within AdWords. And so for us, we had to keep an eye on this bidding strategy to see how it contributes. Recommendations in 2 different phases based on the highest number of leads and converted leads within our system. We then implement the targeting based on county within each region and have a month testing period to yield enough results to analyze and modify our bidding strategy. In my experience, it's always worth testing new strategies to see what can work best for your business, and we've seen tremendous results from this bidding strategy so far. And just as a heads up for anyone using Bing, you can do the exact same bidding strategies within your Bing accounts as well. So you can also target audiences based on their location by using Google Maps ads. Google revamped its map ads, which primarily focus on helping local businesses drive more traffic to their physical locations. According to Google, its map ads help businesses increase their visibility at times when consumers are specifically searching for somewhere to eat or shop. So why would you want to use Google Maps ads? They're valuable for both consumers and business owners. These ads not only help consumers find the business they're looking for, but they also get more information about each business. The ads are also designed to give local businesses additional opportunities to feature their brand with the goal of increasing traffic, particularly when consumers are searching on a mobile device. These ads are currently available when you use the location extensions in your AdWords campaigns. And just like organic listings, these ads can also include call and directions buttons. So as you can see in this example, we searched for oil change near me and instantly got an ad for Midas. Not only was I able to see directions to this specific location, but I could also call to schedule my oil change all from one search. These types of extensions are really great for businesses who have multiple locations, but their marketing is generated from one corporate account. It gives the corporation insights into how many leads are being driven to each individual location. All right, tip number 2, create location-specific ad content. When creating your location-specific ad content, ensure the language in your ads is speaking to the location that you are targeting. So use language that encourages consumers to call your business as well. By including location words like Chicago or whatever city that you're located in, it tells consumers that you are in the same city that they are. This will help increase conversion rates because people always feel more connected to a local business, and making this clear to a researcher just provides a much more positive experience. Google's data even shows that 4 in 5 consumers want ads customized to their city, zip code, or immediate surroundings. So having location-specific ad copy can ensure that you're speaking to your audience's needs. You can also create location-specific ad content in Facebook. Your advertising will probably be different in Facebook than it is in AdWords because of the different ad formats. So to illustrate, let's look at a B2B example. Creating ads that use location-specific targeting for events or trade shows that your company sponsors. Your ad should include content about what event you're exhibiting at and your booth number so prospects can easily find you at the show. In this example, Dialogue Tech was exhibiting at Adobe Summit and didn't have a list of attendees. This was a simple way for us to target people in Las Vegas, which is where the show was, during the 1 week of the show, even though we didn't specifically know who those individuals were that were attending the event. When you know who your target audience is made up of, you can narrow down a large prospect pool by adding other features to help focus on the right people for your business. So in this example, we targeted the city of Vegas during the week of Adobe Summit. We also included other targets like age, location, and interest, like sales, marketing, and Adobe, so that our ads would not show to the wrong demographic. All right. Tip number 3, schedule your ads during open business hours. Scheduling your ads during open business hours is very, very important. For each of your business locations, whether it's one or multiple, you want consumers to be able to reach you while they're on the go, but also when you're available to answer the phone or when people can stop into your store during hours of operation. So using an ad schedule will ensure that your ads are only showing when that specific location is open and able to answer calls and accommodate the needs of your consumers. AdWords makes it really simple to select the days of the week, either individually by Monday through Friday, the weekends, etc., to set up your ad schedule. With the exception of Dialogue Tech's own brand campaign, we run ads during the week because those are our normal hours of operation. However, we do have them run outside of normal 9 to 5 because those early and late hours in the day are typically hours during commutes when people can be doing research on your business. By using an ad schedule, you can exclude the hours where you're not available to interact with your consumers. This saves precious ad dollars by eliminating the threat of unwanted searches during the middle of the night, for example. Within Facebook, you can also schedule your ads, but you can do it at each ad set. Make sure that your ad schedules in Facebook match those that you have set up in AdWords. This is important for brands with brick and mortar locations so that you're not paying to generate calls or in-person visits when your business is closed. However, ad scheduling in Facebook can be less important if the purpose of your campaign is to generate a content or app download, schedule an appointment online, or if your company is an e-commerce site that is available 24/7. You can also have your ads in Facebook on a duration schedule. This allows you to have your ads end at a certain point in time so that your budget doesn't exceed its limit. All right. DT University, which is our research and analytics arm here at Dialog Tech, recently analyzed hundreds of thousands of phone calls from paid search and found that nearly 1 in 5 calls generated from search goes to voicemail. So as a consumer, if I called a business and the call went to a voicemail, I would most likely call another business and take my money elsewhere. These inbound phone calls are extremely valuable conversions, and most calls that go to voicemail are a missed revenue opportunity for a business and wasted spend for marketers. So after analyzing the voicemail messages in this study, we found that nearly 60% of voicemail messages from callers signaled buying intent, meaning these are probably pretty good sales leads that you might be missing out on if they don't get called back right away. So it's really important to not run your ads outside of normal business hours if your main call to action is a phone call. Additionally, make sure your business is properly staffed during business hours so that you can be sure to answer these phone calls. Tip number 4, increase bids for mobile devices. So here at Dialog Tech, we utilize a bid strategy for every campaign and ad group that we're running. Increasing bids for mobile devices allows consumers to find your business in their moments of need while they're on the go. Mobile ad views are often worth more for particular devices, location, and times, so AdWords lets you adjust your bids to be visible when customers are looking for you. Also for mobile, you want to be in position 1 or 2 on the search engine results page, so bidding will have to be increased. You can analyze your calls in Google AdWords, Google Analytics, or any other third-party tool to spot peak times and days for phone calls and modify your bids accordingly. You can bid off on mobile devices to increase call conversions and make sure that ads you have actually contain a call extension or are a call-only ad so that consumers are able to call you directly from the ad on their mobile device. You can also increase bids in your ad schedule to make sure that your call ads appear during the best times. For example, if you notice that you get a heavy influx of calls on a Tuesday, you should increase your bids on that day or even decrease bids on other days of the week. So Facebook's bidding strategies are much different than AdWords. Unfortunately, you're not able to increase or decrease bids on different devices. However, you can still use Facebook's edit placements feature and select mobile only on your device preferences. This allows you to create call-specific and mobile-specific ad messaging to drive more calls from your Facebook ads. Tip number 5, utilize call extensions and call-only ads. You can utilize either call extensions or call-only ads. To optimize AdWords campaigns for the keywords that are driving calls and sales with Google Call Extensions, create mobile preferred ads that use a call extension for the keywords that you've identified as likely to drive phone calls. A great tip here is to use local phone numbers that route to the nearest location of the caller. So when creating a call-only ad, remember that there's no landing page. Your ad needs to have a clear, direct message for your brand. Call-only ads work best when there's a sense of urgency, so don't use these specific ad types if you think someone will want more information before contacting your business. Also, just as a tip, you can utilize call extensions and call-only ads within your Bing ads as well. And Dialog Tech makes it really easy for you to track your call extensions and your call-only ads down to the specific keywords that drove the call so you can best optimize your campaign. Tip 6. Retarget local audiences. So you can retarget your customers in multiple different ways, and AdWords makes it really easy for you to do so. Did a consumer recently purchase a product from your business? Did they recently call your store? Did they abandon your shopping cart on your website? You can retarget all of these different customers or prospects with their email address or phone number. Actually, AdWords makes it's easy for you to pull that by a few other features, but these are the two we'll focus on today. You can then use those retargeting lists within all of your different campaigns and increase bids for those retargeted audience members. So in order to do this, you just need to pull that data that you have within your CRM to retarget these people. You can retarget either all of the leads within your CRM or get more specific, and you can pull things based on location of previous conversions to see higher population areas that tend to convert well. This will help you focus on the locations that you know that have those much higher conversion rates. You can upload lists of phone numbers from past callers as well. In this example, we bid up on all of our previous callers in each of our campaigns so that hopefully they will call again when they see our advertisements. To retarget local audiences within Facebook, you can use the exact same list that you used for AdWords, which makes life so much simpler. So when really should you be updating all of these different lists? It depends on the amount of contacts your CRM has and the frequency of conversions throughout your sales funnel. I tend to upload new versions of our list at the beginning of each month to ensure that we're retargeting our most recent site visitors and callers. Tip number 7, test different Facebook campaign objectives. So depending on what your marketing goals are, Facebook helps you choose from a variety of campaign objectives. If your objective is awareness for your brand, choose brand awareness. This is a great choice for new businesses who want to get their name in front of consumers. If your target audience is farther down the funnel and your goal is to have them consider buying your product, utilize one of the many consideration options. A great choice here for B2B companies is using Facebook's lead generation forms. This allows you to capture a consumer's information. You can then use that information to help nurture the user or retarget them with more information on your company's services. If your goals are to have someone convert into a buyer, use the conversion options. These options are great for B2C companies whose goal is to have someone drop an item into a shopping cart and then check out right away. Another tip is to test the different ad types within these campaign objectives. My personal favorites are the carousel ads and the carousel ads with the first tile containing a video. You can also tailor your Facebook ads for people who want to call. So test different ads within each campaign with different calls to action. So here in the first example, Satva Mattress is encouraging consumers to shop online. This is a great option for top of funnel audiences who may be in the beginning phases of their search. Whereas in the second example, Satva is encouraging consumers to actually call them. Making expensive and infrequent purchases like buying a mattress often leads people to ask many questions. So allowing them to call your business directly is a great call to action for someone farther along in the buyer journey. But also just make sure that the phone number associated with that call now button can route to the nearest location to this shopper.
So for tip 8, Katie touched on calls throughout her presentation, but for tip 8, I wanted to show you what a deep dive into what taking a data-driven approach to calls really looks like. And it's extremely important for you to do this for your local advertising, since people who are running mobile searches or engaging with your local advertising on their smartphones are far more likely to call and make a purchase. So what does this look like? What does a data-driven approach overall look like for digital advertising? So for most of us, it looks like something like this, where we invest in digital campaigns to drive conversions, and those conversions either happen online or offline with a phone call or an in-store visit. Then as marketers, we want to be able to measure the value of those conversions. We'd be able to tell if it's a sales lead or not a sales lead, if that actually lead is an actual sales opportunity or converted to an appointment, and if it converted whether to a new customer or if it's an engagement from a repeat customer. All of these metrics are able to tell us what's working and what's not, and lead us in order to make the right optimizations. So for step 4, for example, knowing what happened in step 1, 2, and 3 enables us to say, let's put this person in a specific retargeting campaign like Katie touched on, or use them in a lookalike campaign, or perhaps exclude them overall from either getting our campaigns, us spending money to retarget these people, or excluding them from specific campaigns that don't apply to them. And then being able to make optimizations based on 1, 2, 3, and 4 for what's driving the best results and the best value, and then really invest in what's working while eliminating what's not. So for most of us, this works very well for online. Tools like AdWords and Facebook, if you use Google Analytics, whatever it is, you usually have the data you need, for the most part, in order to do this well online. You can tell where the online conversion came from. You can connect it to what happens, the value of it. If you've got the right tools in place, you can then retarget those people or take the next steps in order to get them to convert and get people like them to convert. But it often breaks down for many companies when somebody converts offline by making a phone call. So you're not able to connect what drove that call, if its call is going to a call center or it's going to one of your many brick and mortar locations. How are you able to tell if it was even a sales lead at all, much less a good sales lead, or if it converted to the next stage, whether it's an opportunity or an appointment? And then how are you able to use that and determine what should I do with that caller? Should I retarget them or put them in lookalike campaigns? And how can I use that call data and all other callers in order to determine how I should spend my money in order to make the right optimizations for my campaigns? So the first step in order to take a data-driven approach to calls and add calls into your data-driven strategy is to get data on those calls. So when somebody calls, you should look at what drove the call, what marketing channel, ad, search keyword if it came from AdWords or Bing, and website interaction. If they visited your site, what landing page they came to, where did they go, what page did they ultimately call you from. Being able to have that data for each caller, as well as data on the caller themselves, who they are, what's their phone number, where in the country are they calling you from, are they a first time or a repeat caller, and what device did they engage with your digital marketing on before they called. Being able to have this data is really the first fundamental step in order to take a data-driven approach to calls. You can also go a little bit deeper and then use call data to test and optimize campaigns. So one example is a customer of ours, Sylvan Learning. They're a child tutoring provider. They've got around 800 locations in North America, and a lot of their conversions from their digital advertising are phone calls. So what they did was they took a simple A/B test where they ran an 800 number versus a local number for each location to see, what drove the most conversions. And just by making this simple test, they saw that a local phone number generated 3 times the calls from visitors to their landing pages than an 800 number did. So just being able to run a simple test, local versus toll-free, to see if it makes a difference to your conversions could be a great way to improve your ROI and acquire more customers. Another comparison you can make is calls from the search engine results page versus calls from a website. So calls that came in from a call now ad or a call extension in your search ads versus someone who clicked through and then called you from your website. So there's no silver bullet here. For some businesses, I gave you 2 examples of Dialog Tech customers here. One logistics customer of ours, once they dove into their data, they found that 90% of the calls from call extensions from a branded keyword search, someone who used their company name in a keyword search, were job seekers, people who were looking for a job at that company, not the kind of conversion they wanted to spend money on. But a national pest control company with hundreds of locations across the US found that people who are calling to book appointments for pest control, 2 times as many people calls from call extensions converted to a customer versus people who went on to their landing pages and called. So again, it might be different for you. I'm not sure which one it'll be, but being able to at least compare and contrast and see what's working and what's not, what calls are actually leading to customers are very important. Another step you should take is then integrating this call data that we talked about into your other marketing and ad platforms. So for AdWords and Facebook, obviously it's passing call data and that attribution and analytics data into AdWords and into Facebook, so you can use that data to better measure the success of each of your campaigns, each of your ads, each of your keywords, and also use that data to determine, along with the online conversion data, what's working and what's not, and make the right optimizations. Passing that data into Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics or any analytics tool you're using is also important to get a holistic view of the customer journey, so you can see calls as well as online activity. And then if you're using any of these optimization tools, whether it's a bid management tool like DoubleClick or Marin, or an A/B testing tool like Optimizely, passing call data into those tools makes them work better. It enables them to get more accurate data about what's working and what's not, so they can do the job they're supposed to be doing for you, which is driving better conversions at a lower cost. And then, of course, passing the data, if you have a CRM system, like Salesforce, for example, or Microsoft's got a CRM system, or a homegrown one, passing that data into your CRM system, all that call data, so that you can actually include those in your CRM reports and do some really great ROI-driven reports around not only what's driving calls to your business, but what exact marketing channels, ads, keywords are driving calls that convert to opportunities and convert to sales. So one quick example of that, a customer of ours, one of the largest automakers in the world, they've got around 1,200 US dealerships, and they invest heavily in digital marketing to drive business to those dealerships. So when someone engages with their paid search or digital advertising and goes to their website and calls one of the dealerships, they're getting attribution around the channels, ads, keywords, and web page that drove the call. They can then pass that data into Adobe Analytics as well as into their CRM system to get a really complete and accurate view of what's driving the most online activity as well as the most calls, and then also taking it all the way through to a vehicle purchase. They're able to say that this person who called our dealership came in later and went on and made a sale. They actually bought a car. And you can see at the bottom, just having this insight enabled their marketing team to understand that phone calls were a big driver of business to them. They were driving over 40,000 calls a month just from their digital advertising, and those calls were converting to vehicle sales at a 10 times more rate than their online conversions. People who are requesting or filling out a form to talk to a dealer. So tip 9, once you start taking a data-driven approach to calls, one really advanced strategy is being able to actually use some of that data about what drove the call and who the caller is to personalize the caller experience. So I know as marketers, we are starting to personalize our ad campaigns, personalizing our landing pages, doing the best job we can in order to speak specifically to that consumer, to that customer. But you can also use data to personalize the caller experience, which I know for many of you might be a new concept, but I want to show you what that looks like and why it's so important. So what happens on calls, the actual call experience, we're investing all this money on our paid search, on our Facebook campaigns to generate conversions. A lot of those conversions for many of us, especially locally, are phone calls. You know, our ROI, our return on investment, often depends on, you know, what actually happens on the call. And as marketers, we're not in charge of that. We're sending those calls to brick and mortar locations or to call centers or, you know, to remote agents, wherever you're sending calls from your marketing, but we're not the ones actually taking the calls. But what happens on those calls can make or break your sale and make or break your ROI. People who are not getting answered right away, waiting on hold for too long, not being answered at all, if they're going to agents or callers or to locations where the person isn't able to help them, they don't know why they're calling, they're not the right person to assist them. All of these things can lead to a bad call experience, which can ultimately lead to and damage your ROI. So what does taking a data-driven approach to personalizing the call experience look like for digital marketers? So the first strategy you can use is you can actually use the data around what drove a call and who the caller is and where they are in order to personalize that campaign and route that caller automatically to the best location or agent to help them. So for example, example on the left is if you've got a call center, and this is insurance, for an insurance example, if someone ran a search specifically for cheap car insurance in Illinois and called you, you can automatically route that person to the right group of agents who can assist somebody looking to buy car insurance in Illinois. Or if they called you from your web page on home insurance, for example, route them automatically to that group of agents who are best able to assist someone looking to purchase a policy for their home. Don't have them bounce around and having to talk to agent who can't help them. If they're a current customer and you know they're not looking to buy, they're looking to report a claim, for example, you can route them directly to the claims department. Another example that may be more relevant for a local audience, if you've got multiple locations, for example, you can, and someone calls you from downtown Cincinnati or wherever they're calling you from, you can know where they're calling and route people to their closest open store. So for example, if they call you from downtown Cincinnati or downtown Chicago or in the suburbs of Dallas, you can route them to the store closest to them at the time of the phone call. If they're calling you on a day or time when your business or stores are closed and you have a call center available, you can route those callers directly to a call center so that they don't go to voicemail, so that they can be assisted right away, and hopefully you can convert them to a customer. Or if they're, for example, a current customer and maybe you route them to an IVR to ask them about the delivery status of their mattress in this particular example. But again, it depends on your business. Think about where you're sending callers, and are those businesses open? Are there agents who are specializing in certain products or services? And being able to route people right away to those agents. The faster you do that, the better you do that, the better they'll convert to customers. So another example, another strategy you can use, I touched on it a second ago, is IVR, interactive voice response. Many businesses now can send callers to a simple automated phone menu that can ask them questions in order to qualify them and route them to the best location to assist them. So here's a customer of ours that does this, Sleep Train. They're a mattress retailer with around 300 stores on the West Coast. They generate a lot of calls from their marketing. When somebody calls a Sleep Train store, they get, Sleep Train's number on their website or in a call extension, they get sent to a simple IVR that says, press 1 to be routed to the store closest to you. If somebody hits that, they go to the open Sleep Train location closest to wherever they're calling from. Or if they press 2 or press 3, they can talk to the call center. So press 2 would be to order a mattress over the phone, or press 3 to learn about financing options. That then goes automatically to the Sleep Train call center. And doing this is a great way to efficiently handle traffic and connect people right away to the most relevant agent or location or destination to assist them. Another strategy marketers are using now, you know what's driving the call. At the time of the call, you know if a call came from paid search or it came from Facebook or it came from some other channel. If it proves out that calls from a certain channel or a certain keyword or a certain ad campaign convert to customers at a higher rate, you can actually prioritize those callers. So when they call, you can put them in a separate queue so that they get answered right away. They get answered before people who are coming in from every other marketing source, because you know that the sooner you answer a caller, the less time you have them spend on hold, the more likely you are to win their business, and you know that these people who are engaging with these marketing sources are the ones that are converting at the highest rates. You can put them into a priority call queue so that they get answered right away. Another strategy marketers are using is that they're passing the sources and information on the callers to their locations or to their sales agents at the time of the call. So this is a great way to help agents answering calls from your marketing know what's driving the call and know how to take the right tact on that conversation in order to convert them to a customer. So in the example here, you can see someone searches for cheap car insurance and engages with an ad and goes on to call that business. When that caller comes in, the person answering the call can see that this call came from Google, it came from your Auto Chicago advertising group, and it came from cheap car insurance, the keywords. They can then answer the call and frame that conversation in the best way possible to win the sale of somebody who's looking for cheap car insurance. So tip number 10, our last tip, is analyzing conversations for actionable insights. So you're driving all these calls from your local search and local Facebook ads. They're going to multiple locations. People are having conversations. What happens on those conversations is great marketing intelligence that you can use to actually improve the ROI of your campaigns moving forward. So when somebody calls from your paid search ads or your Facebook ads or your display ads, whatever channel drives them, you should be able to know as a marketer, you know, what percentage of these calls to each of your locations is going unanswered versus going to voicemail. You should be able to know if it's a good sales lead or if it's a non-sales lead, if this is not somebody that you should be spending your money to generate. You should know what drove the call of course, but what also is driving the most quality sales calls. You should also know the days and times that drive the best calls, as well as which locations or agents are best at converting callers to appointments or to customers, and what strategies are they taking in order to do this. So there are two ways as marketers we can actually get insight into what happens on our calls. The first one is through call recordings and transcriptions. There's solutions that can record and transcribe these calls for you from every marketing source. And then as marketers, you can drill in to say, okay, I want to see calls from this particular location, from this particular marketing source. Was it a good call? You know, are these long calls? What's the agent saying? What is the caller saying? I can actually want to dive in and look at the actual transcriptions and recordings so that I can determine if it's a good call or not. Another solution you can use is AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning are actually doing this type of analysis for marketers. So if you're generating a ton of calls and it's just not feasible for you to spend time listening to recordings or reading transcriptions, AI, machine learning, can do this type of analytics for you and report back to you with, showing you which calls, for example, from each sources, what percentage of callers have caller intent that are looking to make a sale, or which percentage of calls converted to an appointment or to a customer. And then you can actually have reports that you can use in order to make some great optimizations. So I'm going to show you two quick examples. One here is a customer of ours, Comfort Keepers. They're a senior care provider, so they provide in-home care for seniors. They've got over 450 locations across the U.S. So when their marketing generates a call and it gets routed to their local franchisee, their local location, they're using AI to automatically analyze those conversations to determine if the call was coming from a new customer, so someone who's a new lead, if it's a current customer, or if it's some other non-type of call. And based on that, they're then diving in to say, was it a good lead or a bad lead? And AI is giving them this information to them so that they can then go back to each location and say, I sent you 600 calls this week, 400 of those were from new customers, and the rest were from current customers or other, to prove their value. But they can also then determine how best to deal with each caller, how best to retarget or use each caller in lookalikes. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. Another example, Sylvan, I touched on them earlier, but they're actually, for the calls that their digital marketing is generating to each of their hundreds of locations, the digital marketing team actually looks at calls to each location. So if one location is underperforming, it's not hitting its numbers, the marketing team can then dive into all the calls they've sent in the past month to say, hey, are more calls than normal going to voicemail? And if so, is there a problem with that particular store location? They're not staffed correctly to handle calls coming in during the day. Are the people answering the calls not saying the right things, not mentioning the right promotions, not asking people for an appointment? They're not following the scripts that you're providing them in order to convert that caller to a customer. And are you actually sending them bad phone leads? So are you not sending them quality phone conversions? Sylvan can dive into the actual conversations and determine if this was an actual good phone lead or not, and then they can make optimizations to their own marketing as well as work with each location to improve their performance. They convert more callers to customers. So lastly, you've got analytics on what drove the call, you've got analytics on what happens on the call. You can then determine what next best step to take for each caller. So for example, you can, as Katie touched on, if you know a caller called you but they didn't convert to a customer, you can put that caller into your retargeting campaign so that they can see special offers if they're a good lead in order to get them to convert again. Or you can put them into an upsell or a cross-sell campaign. So if the caller went ahead and bought, you know that, so then you can say, okay, they bought a mattress, maybe I'm going to retarget them with a specific offering for something else in the bedroom that they might want to purchase, or maybe retarget them with, an ad for bedding, for example. If they are a good caller and there's somebody you want to drive more like them, you can put them into your lookalike campaigns. So this way you can drive more callers that look like that specific audience. It's a way to extend the reach of your campaigns. Or if they're not the right people, they're calling for a job, or they're calling to solicit, or they're not ready, they're not the right people to put in specific campaigns, you can then suppress them. But you have all this information for your callers because you've got the analytics to back it up. One recommendation we also make is that when you put callers into your retargeting or lookalike campaigns, you should put them into their own specific campaigns that are geared and optimized towards somebody who wants to call. So if somebody converts with you online, and you put them into a retargeting campaign for online people. But if somebody calls you, put them into a retargeting campaign for someone that wants to call. And the reason why you want to do this is because if somebody calls you, it shows you how they want to engage with you. So a much more impactful retargeting campaign for somebody who proves they want to call you is an ad campaign geared towards generating a call. So here's an example from Sears. It's a paid search ad where it's got a call extension, of course, but it also has ad copy that speaks and asks somebody to call them today for a free home estimate. And then if you don't call from the ad and you click on through the landing page, you can see here that the landing page has a very clear call to action to call now. If somebody has proven they want to call to you, retargeting them with a campaign like this that speaks to them and their preferences is very effective. One quick example here, Comfort Keepers, they do this for their lookalike campaigns. When somebody calls them, and it's a good call, it's a good lead, they put people like that into their lookalike campaigns to find similar callers, and they show them an ad campaign, in this case a display campaign, where the call to action is talk to a Comfort Keeper today. Being able to do this, putting callers into specific lookalike campaigns, has enabled them to drive 4 times the calls as their next best targeting strategy. So I'm going to finish up with a very quick success story from us, a company called Roy's, and an agency called Roger West. I picked this case study because it's got some great local strategies, and it's because Roy's is a multi-location brand. They're an upscale restaurant with 21 locations in the U.S. They use an agency called Roger West to do their paid search and display campaigns with the goal of driving reservations. And obviously a lot of reservations to restaurants come in from phone calls, so they use dialogue tech in order to get analytics on those calls. What drove the call as well as what happened on the call in order to get the right level of intelligence to optimize their campaigns. So I picked 4 data points here. So what they learned from analyzing their calls and what they did with that information. I hope this is interesting to you, but if somebody calls from a reservation calls from mobile paid search on Fridays between 2 and 5. They ended up seeing, when they looked at all their call data, that a high volume of callers were coming in from Fridays between 2 and 5 for reservations. They were good callers, so they optimized their ad spend for those high converting days and times. They found that 70% of calls that were 1 minute or longer used the words reserve or reservation. Those were good calls. So they looked at their data and said, what keywords, ad copy, and targeting were driving longer calls? Let's invest in those strategies. They also saw that although more expensive non-branded search terms were driving the most calls and reservations from first-time visitors. As a restaurant, a very valuable conversion is first-time visitors. So they spent more, even though it's more expensive to target non-branded terms, they spent more because it was the right kind of audience they wanted to target. And lastly, they found that some locations had ring times over 20 seconds. Before those calls were even answered. So that's not a good call experience. The marketing team saw that people were taking some locations were taking a long time to answer their phone calls. They then coached those locations to make answering calls a priority to convert more of those callers to reservations. And the results speak for themselves. In just 7 months, they were able to drive 461% more calls, 434% more reservations, and actually decrease their costs per reservation by 38%. So I hope this was interesting to you. We've got a little bit of time for Q&A, but if you want more best practices around some of the things we talked about, especially around call conversions, you can go to our website, dialoguetech.com. We've got a bunch of ebooks and case studies there that might interest you in order to optimize your marketing to drive better calls that convert to customers. And if you're interested at all in getting a demo of our call analytics platform for your marketing, please visit our website and give us a call. We'd be happy to schedule a time to do that for you. So with that, Lauren, I think we covered a lot, but if there's any questions that you've got in the time we have, we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a lot of information over the past 50 4 minutes or so. So just to remind everyone, we're going to be documenting this in video and should have the deck available as well. So thank you so much, Blair and Kate, sorry, really appreciate your time here. I did have one question on the voicemail and time parting that you had talked about earlier. So if someone is running an ad campaign on Google or Facebook, and they're getting calls when there's no one available, would you recommend that those be routed to an answering service or utilize voicemail?
So I think if an answering service is available, or if they have another location that's open while that location is closed, or if they've got a call center option, that's always preferable. It's always preferable to have a live human answering calls, especially ones that you're investing your digital ads to generate. So if that option is available, I would certainly recommend it. If not, then I would, you need to put in place a process where the next day those voicemail messages are listened to right away and called back as quickly as humanly possible. Because the longer you don't contact somebody, we've seen study after study proves that the least likely chance it is to convert to an opportunity or to a customer. So, a lot of businesses today, especially larger multi-location brands, have a call center option that they use. Automotive has this, a lot of home services have this, hotels and resorts have this. So it's up, if you have that option to route calls when someone's, during times when no one's there to answer, I would absolutely do that.
Excellent. And I really liked your tip on the amount of rings or seconds it took someone to answer the phone in, was it the Roy's example? So right. One thing I've noticed personally when I'm dealing with ordering from CPK or whatever in the area is that it immediately goes into the 1, 2, 3 menu selection. And then the local CPK seems to have someone whose core job is to answer the phone and take orders and reservations. Because when I call, there's no background noise, which I'm not sure if there's someone in the back office or if it's a centralized answering service that they're utilizing, but it took me off guard the first time because you're used to hearing that like background restaurant noise or being put on hold immediately. But after you get used to it, it's an excellent service.
Yeah, and study after study, there's a lot of studies that show that what people actually say when having somebody dedicated to answering the phones and being trained properly on what to say can make a huge difference to marketing ROI. Like if you're working at a dealership, just the simple fact of asking somebody to come in for a test drive has measurable benefits, as well as if you're an insurance company, asking somebody, giving somebody a quote or asking somebody if they want a quote. Just asking, having somebody do that, it's study after study shows it's got a huge impact on conversion rates. If you just say some very simple things and ask the right questions to somebody who calls you.
And speaking of which, how long should a call typically last before it's deemed a high quality sales lead? Can the team be trained up to get that information immediately, or typically how long would that last?
Yeah, I think it depends on your industry. The easy answer is to, if you can do a little analytics on the calls you're generating and how long they're lasting for the ones that actually convert to a customer. In that Roy's example, a minute, anything over a minute seemed to be a pretty good lead for somebody who is requesting a reservation at a restaurant. But if you're calling an insurance company or financial services, perhaps, a longer caller would be more indicative, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Usually, a short call is a bad one, but it depends on your industry, I think. So I would recommend just getting some analytics and doing a test around calls that you generate for a month and seeing what's converting and what's not and how long they are, and then being able to use that to get some better gauge and better direction on what's driving the longer calls.
Very cool. And speaking of different industries, last question that just came in from Lisa is, how can a service like yours help service professionals in law and the health industry? So legal firms and health.
Sure. We have, we've got a lot of customers in both. So to be honest, for legal and in health, a lot of it is the same way it helps other marketers. So a lot of phone calls are a big deal in healthcare. I think something like 80% of appointments are made by people who call. And also obviously in legal as well, it's a high considered purchase. It's a complicated purchase. You're going to want to talk to your lawyer over the phone when you're trying to call and see if they're the right fit for you. So, being able to understand what paid search ads, which are generating the best calls, what times of day are working best for you, and being able to optimize your spend and your targeting for the things that are working best. I will say one quick thing about healthcare. There are oftentimes HIPAA considerations around data privacy and things like that. So I would talk to you can talk to your legal professional there or your HIPAA person there to see what data you can use and collect. But we do have tons of customers in healthcare and tons of customers in legal that use call data every day to make improvements. So great use cases. Happy to talk to that person offline if they wish.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for your time, Katie and Blair. Really appreciate you coming on, helping our audience understand, the ability to track mobile paid ads a lot better, make more out of that phone call time, and be able to integrate into their CRM systems as well. So this has been fantastic.
Well, happy to do it. I hope the audience enjoyed it.
Okay, so thanks again to the team at Dialog Tech. Really appreciate it. And just to let everyone know, we are going to be sending follow-up emails out after today's webinar with more information, with video and other info on today's content. Please stick around. We're going to end the webinar shortly, but before so, there's going to be a quick survey. If you could take the time to fill that out, it would be fantastic. So thanks again, and talk to you in the future.